And the man somewhat at the center of all this joins me right now, Liberal leader Michael Ignatieff. Mr. Ignatieff, thanks very much for being here.
Nice to be here, Tom.
Let's deal with EI first of all. You've seen the basic structure of what they're proposing. Is that the sort of reform that you would vote in favor of? Do you think that Canadians should have that type of extended EI?
Tom, I'm happy to answer your question, but I just wanted to say something I said in the House today, which is we lost a soldier in Afghanistan, Patrick Lormont. I just wanted to say that our hearts go out to his family, and I mention it, I guess, just so we keep everything in perspective here.
Yeah, and
that's all.
And no, I'm glad you did that, because on this program, we always take measure of the soldiers and the contribution that they make. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
The EI reforms here, we were prepared to work with Stephen Harper all summer to get substantial EI reform. They ragged the puck all summer, and they pop it into the House this afternoon. This is why it's so difficult. In fact, why it's become impossible to work with this government. We were prepared to deal with substantial EI reform. They ragged it out, and now we are where we are. And little by little, this makes it impossible to work with this government, and that's the conclusion we reluctantly came to at the end of August.
So when it comes to a vote, when that EI reform comes to a vote, will you vote against it?
We've made it clear that we can't continue to support this government. We've withdrawn confidence.
On everything?
Correct.
Okay, so that means then, ipso facto, to use a little Latin, you want an election.
No, look, for us it's not a matter of whether you want an election or don't want an election. The issue is one of principle for me. I'm the leader of the opposition, Tom. I've got one job, which is to hold the government accountable and ask a simple question on behalf of Canadians. Is this government good enough? And it's not. We've got a deficit that's rocketed up close to $60 billion. We've got 1.5 million Canadians out of work. We've got record bankruptcies, right? I mean, we're in a tough spot here, and we have tried to work with the government for nearly a year. And after a certain point, I have to choose, make that basic judgment on behalf of Canadians. Is this good enough for Canadians? And we've concluded reluctantly, I'd say it reluctantly, we've concluded reluctantly, no, it's not good enough.
You've heard, though, a lot of the commentary and a lot of the anecdotal evidence that's out in the country. Canadians saying, God, another election, you've got to be kidding me. And increasingly they've been pointing the fingers at you as being the person responsible for that. First of all, are they fair to be blaming you for bringing them to the brink of an election? And secondly, what would you say to somebody who complains about the fact that we may have to go to the polls this fall?
The first responsibility for making a minority parliament work in our democratic system is the Prime Minister. It's the Prime Minister who has to make a minority parliament work. Last year, you'll remember, he lost the confidence of the House. And we had to come to his rescue, and we voted a budget. We voted a budget because we thought, hey, some stimulus is better than no stimulus. Some unemployment insurance reform is better than none. And then as we've watched, the months go by, no deficit, then suddenly it's 32, then suddenly it's 50, then suddenly it's 60. This is not small stuff, Tom. This is taxpayers' money. We have a feeling they've lost control of the public finances of our country. That's a serious matter. I don't want to precipitate elections, but it's a matter of principle to me to do my job, which is to say, is this good enough? And we're saying, no, it's not good enough.
We've heard today from Gilles Duceppe, the leader of the Bloc Québécois, who says that more than likely he will vote for the Ways and Means motion this Friday, which is not about EI, just so we keep everything straight here. And it looks as if the New Democrats are wavering, but nevertheless, as long as the Bloc votes for the government, no election at least precipitated this Friday. So the next obvious choice would be then the non-confidence motion, which would come in presumably the beginning of October. But if they voted for, and if the New Democrats now are siding with the government on this, in some small way, is this better for you? It buys you maybe another year, raise a little bit of money, get your profile out there and so on. I mean...
Tom, I hadn't had time to think about it that way, because to be truthful, the Conservatives have been going on about how terrible coalitions are, and then they seem to be busy creating a little one of their own. So I'm kind of, like everybody else, adjusting to the new realities. Look, I took a decision of principle. that I didn't think the performance of this government was good enough. I think it's letting Canadians down, and I can't prop up a government that lets Canadians down. So that's all I know. And so what other parties do, what the government does, it's their business and their responsibility.
One of the things that an election would have precipitated, other than a vote, would have been what a lot of Canadians have been saying, you know, I don't know that much about Michael Ignatieff. I don't really know what he stands for. Your party, yourself, have been saying for some time, well, come the election, we'll lay it all out for you. You'll be able to see it. If there is no election this fall, when do we get to see your policies?
You saw some of them today, Tom. I think you must have been maybe a little asleep there. I gave a speech at noon, very clear, very precise, very detailed foreign policy speech saying Canada should get back into the world and start resuming that leadership we used to have, not just under Liberals. We had some pretty good leadership on the international stage when the progressive Conservatives were in power. And our criticism is that we think that Mr. Harper's walked Canada off the world stage, and we need to get back there. There was plenty of substance, plenty of ideas, particularly about how we lead at Huntsville next year. That's the next rendezvous that Canada has with leadership. We're hosting the world, and we got to have an agenda. And where's the agenda from this government?
For the record, I wasn't asleep at the beginning of your speech.
I know that was a little unfair. I'd like to withdraw.
I said at the beginning of the speech.
You're an accomplished professional.
But okay, but just to lay it out then, do you have a plan this fall to expand the revelations of what your policies are, where you stand, what you want to do in government and so on, even in the absence of an election?
Oh, Tom, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't know where this thing is going to go. I've said I can't support the government further, and Canadians then should have the right to ask of me, okay, Mike, what are you going to put in the window? And we will put a lot in the window. It'll be detailed, it'll be clear. Canadians will have no doubt there's an alternative to Stephen Harper and his government.
Last quick question. Have you spoken with Jack Layton or Gilles Duceppe about the upcoming non-confidence motion?
No.
Do you intend to?
No.
Couldn't be clearer than that. Michael Ignatieff, leader of the Liberal Party, thanks very much
Great
for being here. I appreciate it.